one of the things that I am big on shining the light to is when people and soldiers deploy, there's obviously the family and friends at home that are sitting there worried about their loved ones being overseas. How did your mum and, I mean, I don't know if you were in a relationship at the time, potential partner feeling at the time about you going to not just East Timor, but obviously an active war zone?
Yeah, look, that's a good question, and I think the answer that I'll give you now will be very different to the answer I gave you when I was younger. I think it really does. People's life circumstances depend on it. Obviously, in the early stages of the war, we only had one Australian killed and one seriously injured, so it wasn't really in the zeitgeist as much about having Australian soldiers being maimed and killed. So, look, my mum wasn't thrilled about the idea of me going to Afghanistan. I think everyone knew what was happening there, and there was a war zone. But I was just a kid myself. I was 22, 23. So I think they're really, really big concerns. I think, to answer your question, I met my wife, who I'm still with now, in 2007 when I was on the reinforcement cycle. So we're still together, and we have a 9-year-old daughter. And she didn't really know what we're doing. And in actual fact, when I came back from my first deployment, I was showing a civilian friend of mine some helmet cam footage. And she actually said, what's going on there? I said, we're shooting. She's like real bullets. I said, yes, mate, real bullets. She's like, who are you shooting at? Who's shooting at you? I said, the Taliban. She goes, what? You were fighting the Taliban? So, I mean, I certainly didn't church up. I mean, a lot of people church up what they're doing. I don't know why. I've always played down anything that I've done because I don't see any utility in alarming people that care about you. But as my career went on, and I was skipping forward a bit here, but my last long-term deployment was in 2017 to Iraq, and my daughter was 2 or 3 at the time. So that for me really, showed just how difficult it is for the girls back home. I know it's 2024, but all commandos are males. I'm sorry. If you're a female, I'll give it a crack. We haven't had a single one pass yet, so I'll use the term females. But when all the girls were at home, with their kids, that's when I realised just how difficult it is, and it was my decision to end up leaving. But to answer your question, look, I think, particularly the guys, and I look back now and think, when I was a young lad, the older guys that were in my age now that had 2 or 3 kids at home, just how difficult that would have been. Because I think about spending, a week away from my daughter now. And she's so used to having me home every day. I think she remembers me being away. But the idea of me saying to her, see you later, I'll be back in 7 months, is just, I just can't comprehend that now.
I interviewed, one of my very first podcast episodes, I interviewed a wife of an SAS soldier. And she was saying that she basically brought up 3 kids as a single mum, and how tough it was. So, yeah, I think it's important to shed the light that as much as the soldiers are going over there, there's families supporting them and holding down the home front too. So I think it's important.
Yeah, look, and, a few years ago when I was thinking about leaving defence, I was at work. It was late at night running a course, and I went in there to get some toast and a coffee, and there was this warrant officer there, and he was a senior guy from Perth, from SASR, and he was over in Sydney to do some courses. We just sat down, as you do, in the sergeant's mess and had a chat, and we ended up talking, and he asked me what my plans were, and I said, look, mate, I'm not quite sure, And he said this is a guy who'd been in the regiment since the early 90s, right? So he was on the cusp of retirement. And, he'd done everything, every deployment from Timor all the way through to, everything the Australians have been involved in, And I asked him, and this is my first sort of way of analysing whether I'm going to leave the army or not. Forensically analysed what my entitlements would be, how it all works, how does my super work. And I spoke to anyone that had gotten out of the army. But it all started with this one conversation with this one officer from Perth. And he said to me, look, he goes, my life comes in 2 parts. There's my career. I've achieved everything I possibly wanted to do, but it's come at a cost. It's come at a cost. I haven't been there for my 2 kids growing up. I barely know them. He's been divorced twice, and his kids are adults now. They don't know him. And I thought to myself, well, do I want to be that person? Do I really want to have those stories when I'm 60 about how I chose the job before my family? Because at the end of the day, regardless of what people say, it is a very selfish endeavour, and I realise that now, right?
You didn't realise that at the time?
No.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because I think I deluded myself, as some people do, into saying, well, I'm doing this for my family,
Yeah. Or I'm doing it for my country, which you guys are, but it's still,
Yeah. I mean, look, some people in the army should never leave because they would never survive in the outside world. So stay in the army forever. It's the only way you're going to make a good income. But for the vast majority of SF guys, when I sat there and said to myself, well, I'm in the army for my family. I've got to support my family.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, so I listed all these things that kept me in the military after 22 years. And I said to myself, okay, well, let's try and, what we call red team, let's try and make this idea fail. So I'm doing it for the money to support my family. I went away and analysed how my super works, how the pension works, DVA, and I realised that I'm actually financially better off by leaving the army and working 2 days a week from home.
Wow.
So that's done. So I can't say it's for the money anymore. I had numerous offers over the last few years to deploy overseas, and I said no to all of them because I just didn't want to go away. I had a gutful. So I don't want to deploy. So that's the second box. So I went through this process of analysis, and I soon came to the conclusion that the only reason I'm in the army is because I was scared of who I was going to be if I wasn't a commando. And that wasn't strong enough of an argument for me to not be home to be present for my daughter. So that's the sort of thought process that I went through. But, most commandos and most Perth lads, they would be more than capable of leaving the military tomorrow and making a perfectly good living and be home every day. But the reality is a lot of us just don't want to do it because the job's pretty good. Going back to my first point, that I think it is a selfish endeavor.
Yeah, it looks like fun. And then I go, well, I don't like the mud and I don't like heights and I don't like really a lot of the realities. And you go, oh, well, it's fun for them, but I'll quite happily sit on over the couch.
Oh, look, I've become such a creature of comfort ever since I left the military. I mean,
oh, really?
Because there's things you just endure. You endure being tired. You endure working long hours. You endure being cold. You endure being hot. You endure not having showers all the time. Yeah, being away from home. And it's just, since I left the military, I've had friends say to me, hey, mate, do you want to go camping? And I'm like, well, are we camping out of a car? Or, no, we're going camping. I'm like, no. For me, the idea of spending my free time, walking to the bush and sleeping in a tent in a sleeping bag is just so far from reality right now. I've spent so much of my career being hot or being cold. So my aircon is on 22 degrees pretty much all day. I shower twice a day. I'm just enjoying having some agency over my life and being comfortable. I'm sure it won't last long, but I see as people do, ice baths and go for long runs, and I'm just like, no, I'm done. I'll go to the gym and just do, chest and back bars and tries, walk on a treadmill now and then, go for a surf, and that's it. Like I'm just enjoying, doing normal things as opposed to trying to push myself and be uncomfortable.
How long have you been out now? 12 months?
Close to it, October last year.
Okay, so you are in the honeymoon stage still.
Yeah, I'm in honeymoon stage. So absolutely.